y'all, welcome back. Today's video, even though it's a little bit late, going to be my recommendations for what to read this month, especially since we are more in the like contemporary romance kind of month. I feel, at least I'm definitely focusing more on the contemporary romance this month, so I just wanted to share some book recs with you guys. I'm going to start off with kind of what I would say contemporary. I feel like a lot of these that I have are contemporary, but just kind of your normal everyday life kind of books. The first book I want to recommend is Funny Story by Emily Henry. I read this shortly after it came out last year, and it was a really good read. I think I read it over the summer and it fit perfectly for summer, but it would just be a quick read. I think it's only, okay, I lied, it's about 400 pages. That is not a quick read. If I can remember correctly, Daphne, whose fiance cheats on her, and then Daphne and the boyfriend of the girl that her fiance cheated on her with move in together, I think start fake dating. I really love Emily Henry's writing. I think I have like 3 more books of hers for this list, but highly recommend Funny Story. Next is Beach Read by Emily Henry. I really loved this book when I read it. I want to say it was my first Emily Henry read. It was either Book Lovers or it was Beach Read. That was my first Emily Henry read. So good. Highly recommend it. I recommend all of Emily Henry. She is just such a fantastic writer. Beach Read is about 2 writers. I think they're both in like a little bit of a rut, struggling to come up with their next book. So they come up with a challenge over the summer and fall in love while they do. The next book that I have, which I promise I think is my last Emily Henry book, I think is gonna be Book Lovers. This was such a good book. I think it made me fall in love with reading all over again. But this one is about 2 romance writers who meet in like your peak small town romance town and fall in love, and it's so adorable. It's kind of Gilmore Girls. I've never watched Gilmore Girls. I've just seen the clips on TikTok, but I imagine Book Lovers would be Gilmore Girls. Next book that I recommend is Love and Other Words by Christina Lauren. I can't remember when I read this book, but I just remember that it was such a good book. It was just one of those where after you read it, you kind of go into a little bit of a book slump because you don't know what's gonna top that. It's about 2 childhood best friends who kind of have a crush on each other but don't realize it until they reconnect later in life. Then they both realize that they have feelings for each other and have had feelings for each other, and it goes from there. The next book that I have is an Ali Hazelwood book, and it is Love Theoretically. I just recently listened to this on Libby. Loved it. Could have done without the 3rd act breakup, but I loved it. Love Theoretically is about 2 physicists who kind of are against each other. They kind of hate each other. She just hates him because of something he did in his past, and he really has no idea. The next book that I recommend, which I also read recently, I think it's the 2nd book that I read this year, is All Roads Lead Here. This is age gap, grumpy sunshine with that man. Delicious. Is about Aura, the main girl, who breaks up / divorces, I can't remember if they were ever officially married, her longtime boyfriend, who is a pop star, and she decides to go back to her hometown, kind of connect with her roots, and then she stumbles upon Mr. Tobias Rhodes, who is her landlord. This was so good. This was my first Mariana Zapata book, and I'm debating if I should read her other books. Let me know in the comments if you recommend any of her other books, or if you know of any other books very similar to All Roads Lead Here, because this, I could not get enough of it. The clapback that Tobias Rhodes has, the sass. My boyfriend is a sassy man, so I love sassy men. Round out the contemporary portion of this video, I have Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. One of my friends recommended and gave it to me. I was very skeptical about it, but it was so good. I was not expecting to like it. It was such a cute very short story, so if you're needing something, I don't know, to read in a day / a weekend, I would recommend this one. This follows Hazel and her longtime friend Josh, who have always kind of struggled to date other people and keep relationships, and they decide to kind of go through this together. I don't remember why, but they decide to go through this together, and they find themselves being attracted to one another. Now I'm gonna move into Western. I have been in the Western romance life lately. I just recently read Wild Eyes because I picked it up forever ago and just never read it. I forgot how much I love Elsie Silver's writing. She is so good. Speaking of our girl Elsie Silver, I recommend Heartless. This is the second book in the Chestnut Spring series. I honestly recommend that entire series, but I get it if you don't want to read 5 books. This follows Cade and Willa. Willa is in search of a job for the summer because I think the bar that she works at was like closed down for a little bit or something. And she gets hired as Cade's nanny. He has a son and Willa nannies his son, and they fall in love. Duh. Because how are you gonna meet Cade Eaton in person and not fall in love with him? I fell in love with him through words on a page, ink on a page. All of the Chestnut Spring men, but Cade Eaton specifically, I would die for. Next on the Elsie Silver lineup, we have Wild Love. This is the first book in the Rose Hill series, which, for my girls, this is a series all about single dads. Get into it, please. Is about Ford Grant, is a hot billionaire who just wants to escape back to his hometown and have a recording studio and help other singers, but from his hometown, because he's so tired of the billionaire lifestyle. It's hard being hot and rich and sexy and a Western man. Okay, Ford. Your name is Ford. You're named after a truck. But I love you. He stumbles across his childhood crush, which so happens to be his best friend's little sister. Again, age gap. What do we think we like in this household? Age gap. And then we are moving on to my other favorite girl. I think Elsie Silver and Lila Sage are just my 2 favorite Western romance authors. This is Done and Dusted. This is part of the Rebel Blue series. This is the first book. It follows Clementine, or Emmy, writer Luke Brooks. It's one of those like brothers, best friend, small town romance, longtime crush type deals. They rekindle and they fall in love all over again. And it is just delicious and gorgeous. And Luke Brooks, oh, the man you are. Lila Sage, the woman you are. That rounds out the Western romance section. Next, we're gonna move on to fantasy. The first one that I have is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I mentioned this one earlier. This was the first Ali Hazelwood book that I ever read. Also my first Omegaverse book that I've ever read, which was very confusing to get into, but hey, Ali Hazelwood killed it. This follows Misery and Lo on their, I guess, adventure, you could call it, to reconnect the vampires and the werewolves and protect each other. But it was really good. I was not expecting to like this. When I first had heard about it, I was very confused on how it would all work out, but highly recommend this, and highly also recommend looking into what the Omegaverse is prior to reading this, because I was solidly confused. Next, I have an absolute favorite, if we cannot tell by the tabs. I think this is the one and only book that I have ever annotated. I tabbed the fuck out of this book, which I want to start doing again because this was really fun. This is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This is YA, but this is the most delicious YA you will ever get. You will never get a more delicious YA than Once Upon a Broken Heart. Whatever Stephanie Garber put into this man Jax, him with the blue hair, oh, him with the blue hair, This follows Evangeline and Jax. Evangeline is a girl who was just trying to save her fiance and ended up making a deal with the Fate Jax, who is known for his trickery. Lastly, I'm sure we could have all seen this one coming with the release of Onyx Storm, but we have Fourth Wing. I feel like out of the 3 books is the most heavy on the romance. Is where the story kicks up between Violet and Xaden. We still get a little bit of that Dane romance, which he's making his comeback in Onyx Storm. He's getting his redemption arc. I'm sure we all know, but I'm gonna give a quick rundown anyways. Fourth Wing follows Violet Sorrengail and her time in / adventures in the War College Basgiath, which she has grown up in, but specifically her time in the Writer's Quadrant. Think of if Hunger Games, Game of Thrones, and I don't know, your favorite smut was all mixed together in one book. That's Fourth Wing. Devoured it, loved it, read it, I wept. We all know why we wept, but we wept. This segment I just wanted to throw in because I love this book. Definitely read the trigger warnings, and that is going to be Butcher and Blackbird. I was not prepared for what I was going to read in this book, even though I read the trigger warnings. I read reviews of people who read this. You will never be prepared. Butcher and Blackbird follows 2 serial killers, Sloane and Rowan, who meet up once a year to have a competition of who can kill the target first, and whoever wins gets bragging rights for the year, I think. But as time goes on, they fall in love. The cutest story ever, but it's also so entirely because they're serial killers, but they're serial killers who kill bad guys. So almost vigilante stuff. So read the trigger page, please. And that is all my book recs that I have for the month of February. Please let me know if you have read any of these, are planning to read any of these, or if you have any recs for me, please leave them down below as well. I cannot wait to see y'all in the next video. Bye!